What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Let's get right into it. Sean Strickland recently addressed a heated moment involving longtime teammate and close friend Chris Curtis, following the circulation of a video that highlighted tension between the two. While Strickland and Curtis have shared years of friendship, training, and even podcasting together, their relationship, like many long-standing friendships, has not been without challenges. The latest controversy stems from Strickland inviting Kyle Rittenhouse to train at Extreme Couture, a decision that clearly upset Curtis. Curtis confronted Strickland directly, questioning why he would bring someone so politically controversial into what he considers his home gym. Although Curtis emphasized that he wasn't angry, his frustration was evident. He expressed disappointment, noting that Strickland is one of his closest friends and saying he would never intentionally put him in a similar position. Despite the emotional exchange, Strickland later spoke candidly about the situation, attempting to downplay the conflict while also explaining his perspective. He joked about Curtis's strong political views, describing him as passionate and emotionally driven when it comes to politics, but made it clear that his respect and affection for Curtis remain unchanged. Strickland emphasized that he loves Curtis and found the backlash surrounding the situation somewhat exaggerated. Following the viral spread of the video, Strickland shared additional thoughts on social media. He criticized the decision to repeatedly repost the clip and offered context regarding Rittenhouse, stating that he believes the young man was placed in an extremely bad situation by older influences, and that the events were ultimately ruled self-defense. Strickland also acknowledged that he hadn't anticipated Curtis reacting so strongly, but admitted he couldn't fault him for it. Strickland went on to broaden the discussion, arguing that years of politically charged media narratives have deeply divided people. He suggested that constant exposure to inflammatory rhetoric from both sides has contributed to heightened emotional reactions and radicalization. In closing, Strickland urged people to step back from political obsession, reminding fans that social media arguments change nothing and that happiness should take priority. While Strickland stopped short of issuing a formal apology, his comments suggested understanding and reflection. Hopefully, this moment serves as a temporary setback rather than a lasting rift, allowing both fighters to move forward without further conflict. Before we continue, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay up to date with all our latest content. Moving on to another news. With the first Paramount card officially taking place this weekend, several notable UFC updates have begun circulating, starting with former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker and the possibility of a move to the light heavyweight division. In recent weeks, Whittaker has openly discussed the idea of moving up to 205 pounds, and it appears that the consideration is more than just casual talk. During a recent appearance on Main Event TV, Whittaker was asked directly about his future weight class, and he did not back away from his earlier comments. Instead, he confirmed that the move is something he is evaluating very seriously. Whittaker explained that the physical demands of making the middleweight limit have become increasingly difficult. While many fans and analysts often label him as a small middleweight due to his frame and reach, Whittaker pushed back against that narrative. He pointed out that the weight cut itself is far more taxing than most people realize, and suggested that competing at a higher weight could allow him to perform closer to his full physical potential. He also referenced other fighters who have successfully made the transition to light heavyweight, including Paulo Costa, who recently announced his own move to 205 pounds. Whittaker noted that these shifts reflect a growing trend among elite middleweights who are reevaluating long-term health, performance, and career longevity rather than forcing extreme weight cuts. The former champion emphasized that any decision would be made carefully, weighing both competitive and physical factors. Light heavyweight presents a vastly different challenge, featuring larger opponents, increased power, and a faster pace at the top of the division. However, Whittaker's elite striking, fight IQ, and championship experience could translate well against heavier competition. If Whittaker does make the jump, his presence would instantly add depth and intrigue to the light heavyweight division. Fans are already speculating about potential matchups and whether his speed and technical ability could offset the size advantage of natural 205-pound fighters. For now, Whittaker remains focused on evaluating his options and ensuring that any move aligns with his long-term goals. Whether he stays at middleweight or tests himself in a new division, one thing is clear: Robert Whittaker is far from finished, and his next decision could significantly reshape the UFC landscape. Moving on to another news. Paddy Pimblett recently responded to backlash from fans after a video surfaced showing him vaping during a training session, sparking concern within the MMA community. The clip which appeared on Tom Aspinall's YouTube channel, quickly gained traction online and led to questions about Pimblett's conditioning ahead of his highly anticipated fight against Justin Gaethje. Many fans voiced worries about Pimblett's cardio, particularly because the matchup is widely expected to test endurance and potentially stretch into the championship rounds. Given Pimblett's history of dramatic weight fluctuations between fights, the sight of him vaping raised eyebrows among observers who questioned whether it could negatively impact his preparation. Addressing the controversy in an interview with John Bernard Kavanagh, Pimblett dismissed the criticism and explained his reasoning. He clarified that the vape seen in the video was a CBD vape and insisted that it plays a specific role in his fight camp. According to Pimblett, vaping helps curb his appetite, making it easier to avoid unnecessary snacking and stay disciplined during training and weight cuts. Pimblett emphasized that his weight management is currently better than it has ever been at this stage of a fight camp. He revealed that he is lighter now than he was at the same point before previous fights, including his bout with Michael Chandler. In his view, this demonstrates that his approach is working rather than harming his performance. When asked whether he uses the vape during fight week, Pimblett confirmed that he does on occasion, noting that it helps manage cravings and maintain focus. He even joked that his current progress might be partially credited to the vape, highlighting that his weight is exactly where it needs to be. Despite the criticism, Pimblett appeared unfazed by the online reaction. He maintained confidence in his conditioning and preparation, stressing that he knows his own body better than anyone else. While fans and analysts continue to debate whether vaping has a place in elite-level fight camps, Pimblett's message was clear. His training methods are producing results, and he has no intention of changing course based on outside opinions. As fight night approaches, all eyes will be on Pimblett to see whether his conditioning holds up inside the cage, potentially putting the controversy to rest once and for all. Moving on to another news. Paddy Pimblett has once again found himself at the center of controversy, this time after making blunt remarks about former interim lightweight champion Dustin Poirier during a recent interview with TNT Sports. While some fans were already questioning Pimblett's habits following the backlash over his vaping video, his latest comments have added fuel to the fire. During the interview, Pimblett spoke candidly about fighters who announced their retirement plans before stepping into the cage for a final bout. He argued that publicly labeling a fight as a retirement fight often creates unnecessary pressure and unrealistic expectations. According to Pimblett, this approach can ultimately work against the fighter, both mentally and physically. Pimblett used Dustin Poirier as a specific example, criticizing the way Poirier framed his recent bout. He suggested that by announcing his intention to retire ahead of time, Poirier placed a spotlight on himself that may have contributed to the outcome. Pimblett claimed that Poirier endured a difficult fight and took significant damage, arguing that the narrative surrounding the bout only amplified the negative perception afterward. In Pimblett's view, fighters who are truly ready to walk away from the sport should do so quietly rather than making public declarations. He stated that announcing retirement beforehand can lead to distractions, added pressure, and emotional weight that interferes with performance. Pimblett implied that Poirier's situation served as a cautionary example of how not to handle the final stages of a career. The comments quickly sparked backlash from fans, many of whom viewed Pimblett's remarks as disrespectful toward a veteran who has spent years competing at the highest level. Poirier is widely regarded as one of the most accomplished and respected fighters in the lightweight division, with memorable wars and championship-caliber performances throughout his career. As a result, some fans accused Pimblett of lacking perspective and taking unnecessary shots at a proven elite fighter. Others defended Pimblett, arguing that his comments reflected his trademark blunt honesty rather than personal malice. Still, the incident highlights Pimblett's growing reputation for speaking his mind without filtering his words, even when it risks backlash. As Pimblett continues to rise in prominence, moments like this underline the fine line between confidence and controversy. Whether fans agree or disagree, his comments ensure that attention remains firmly on him, both inside and outside the octagon. Moving on to another news. Alleged direct messages involving Justin Gaethje have recently surfaced online, shedding light on behind-the-scenes negotiations and fighter pay discussions related to a potential matchup. The leaked conversation reveals a candid exchange between Gaethje and fellow lightweight Al Iaquinta, centered around headlining a UFC card and securing better compensation. The discussion begins with Iaquinta reaching out to Gaethje, proposing that the two headline an event together. Iaquinta made it clear that he was seeking a purse of $150,000 $100,000 to show and $50,000 to win, emphasizing that such numbers were reasonable given the stakes and visibility of a main event. He suggested that headlining a card justified higher pay and asked Gaethje where he stood on the issue. Gaethje responded bluntly, stating that he ultimately looks out for himself. He pointed out that the UFC could easily find another opponent willing to accept less money, reinforcing the reality of how negotiations often unfold. While he acknowledged that $150,000 and $50,000 wasn't unreasonable, Gaethje made it clear he was satisfied with the terms he had personally agreed to. Iaquinta continued to push the idea of unity, arguing that if both fighters stood together, they could pressure the promotion into paying more. He stressed that working collectively would benefit them both and allow the fight to happen on better terms, with the winner ultimately settling matters inside the cage. Gaethje replied that although he always feels he deserves more, he was content with his current deal and believed it was his manager's responsibility to negotiate improved terms. However, he did express support for making the fight happen and agreed that it would be beneficial for both fighters' careers. The conversation intensified when Iaquinta urged Gaethje to refuse any fight that wasn't against him, claiming that taking a stand was the only way fighters could regain leverage. He warned that accepting another matchup would undermine the effort and accused Gaethje of unintentionally protecting the promotion's interests rather than his own. Gaethje ended the exchange by telling Iaquinta to handle his own negotiations. Months later, Iaquinta reportedly revisited the conversation, claiming he eventually secured the pay he wanted for a different fight and suggesting Gaethje could have earned more if they had worked together. If authentic, the leaked messages offer a rare look into the internal struggles fighters face when negotiating pay, highlighting the tension between individual security and collective bargaining in the UFC. Moving on to another news. Recently drawing attention after a clip surfaced on social media showing him sparring with Dutch model and fitness personality Vera Dijkmans. The brief video quickly gained traction online, sparking conversation across the MMA community due to Pereira's star power and the unexpected crossover. Known for his elite striking background and championship success in both kickboxing and mixed martial arts, Pereira has never shied away from unconventional training environments. The footage shows him moving lightly on the mats, demonstrating controlled technique and precision while working alongside Dijkmans. Rather than an intense or competitive exchange, the session appeared to be light, technical sparring focused on movement, timing, and basic striking fundamentals. Dijkmans, who has a strong presence on social media and is known for her fitness-focused lifestyle, has previously shared clips of boxing and training sessions. Her collaboration with Pereira highlights how combat sports continue to intersect with mainstream fitness culture, bringing high-level techniques to a broader audience. The session also reflects Pereira's relaxed and disciplined approach outside of full fight camps, maintaining rhythm and sharpness without unnecessary wear and tear. Fans reacted with a mix of curiosity and humor, with many pointing out Pereira's calm demeanor and clear control during the session. Others praised his willingness to engage with different training partners while remaining professional and respectful. As expected, the clip also sparked speculation about Pereira's next move inside the UFC, with supporters eager to see when and where he will compete next. While the sparring session was lighthearted in nature, it underscores Pereira's constant commitment to training and staying active, even when he is not officially booked for a fight. For elite fighters, maintaining consistency and muscle memory is crucial. And sessions like this help preserve sharpness without the risks associated with full contact sparring. As Alex Pereira continues to build his legacy as one of the most dangerous strikers in combat sports, moments like these offer fans a glimpse into his everyday training life, balancing discipline, creativity, and adaptability, both inside and outside the gym. Moving on to another news. The MMA community has reacted strongly to Dana White's recent explanation regarding a fighter pay situation, with many fans openly expressing skepticism and frustration in the comments. Rather than accepting White's version of events at face value, a large portion of the audience questioned the credibility of his claims, suggesting that key details may have been left out. One fan summed up the prevailing sentiment by stating that no professional fighter would ever turn down more money unless there was a significant catch attached. According to that perspective, White's explanation lacked transparency and failed to address the full scope of the negotiations. The comment resonated widely, as many fans believe that contract offers in the UFC often include hidden clauses or long-term commitments that aren't immediately disclosed to the public. Others took a more sarcastic approach, mocking the idea that a fighter would simply refuse a higher payday without reason. One commenter joked that the story sounded unrealistic, while another challenged White to come up with an explanation that was more believable. Several fans speculated that any increased offer may have come with restrictive terms, such as extended contracts, unfavorable renewal options, or limits on future negotiating power. A recurring point raised in the discussion was the role of fighter management. Some fans noted that fighters rarely deal directly with Dana White during contract negotiations. Instead, all offers and counteroffers typically go through managers and agents, making it unlikely that a fighter would personally reject an offer without understanding the broader implications. This led to further speculation that the public narrative may oversimplify a much more complex situation behind closed doors. The comments also reflected broader, ongoing frustrations within the MMA fanbase regarding fighter pay and transparency. Many believe that disputes like this highlight systemic issues within the sport, where fighters often lack leverage despite being the primary attraction. As a result, any explanation that doesn't fully address contractual details tends to be met with doubt. While Dana White has stood by his explanation, the reaction from fans suggests that trust remains low when it comes to public statements about fighter compensation. Until more concrete details emerge, skepticism is likely to persist, reinforcing the perception that negotiations in the UFC are rarely as straightforward as they appear.